Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Vietnam once again for the first time in what feels like a very long time. Now we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel once before, and if memory serves me correctly, that review appeared on the channel back in about 2021, so it's been a good couple of years actually. But over the last few years this brewery have been continuing to grow, and they've been keeping their very good reputation that they had and distributing their beers a little bit further afield. And the one we're looking at today is one of 3 beers that they've released here in Hong Kong very recently. Now it's a style that I've had from this brewery before, one that I know they can do very well, but this particular one is one that was recommended to me by a good friend who knows these beers pretty damn well actually. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we're going to head down to Vietnam. We are going to go to the south of the country, to Ho Chi Minh City, previously known as Saigon, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Heart of Darkness Brewery. So this particular beer is called The Ghost. It comes in at 12% ABV, it's an Imperial Stout, and it's been aged in Teeling whiskey barrels from Ireland. So yeah, this was one of 3 beers from these guys that appeared here in Hong Kong, and this one was recommended to me by my good friend Deb from Singapore, who works in Heart of Darkness's bar there. So big shout out to her. There was 3 of them, and I asked her which one was her favourite, and this is the one she said. So I thought, let's have a look at this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, first time reviewing a beer from these guys in 3 years. That's a little bit crazy, but these days there are many good Vietnamese breweries from what I gather, so I think I need to get down there and go and visit some of them, and of course review some more of their beers here on the channel as well. But yeah, big shout out to Deb. Like I said, she works for them in Singapore, and she's brewing her own beer these days too, so hopefully we can review some of those on the channel going forward. We'll see how that progresses. But let's crack on then and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Heart of Darkness Brewery before, and we will no doubt add some more to that list at some point in the near future. If this one's good, I might go out and get the other 2 that were released here from them quite recently. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Vietnamese playlist, which I'm hoping to add to over the next little while, because you know there's breweries like Seven Bridges and Iberio and things that I haven't checked out yet, so keep our fingers crossed that we come across some of their beers. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Heart of Darkness Brewery once again then. So, Heart of Darkness Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Ho Chi Minh City in the south of Vietnam, previously known as Saigon of course, and the company was founded back in 2016, and the main men behind it are John Bemberton and Dwayne Morton. So John is English and has a background in economics, and while growing up in England he was a fan of traditional cask beer, but then in the 2000s he worked in New York, where he developed a love of the American craft beers. But a little bit later on in 2013 he got a job with IKEA and he moved to Vietnam, and it was there that he converted a bathroom into a home brewery. So Dwayne is originally from New Zealand, and he had a long career in brewing and has worked for Invercargill, Moa, Carrero and Panhead before heading up to Vietnam. But both say that the audience of the brewery was mainly Westerners in the beginning, but the vibrancy of the Vietnamese food scene has made it really easy for them to involve the local Vietnamese people as well. But the brewery itself can be found about 20 kilometres to the north of Ho Chi Minh City. It's a 1,000 square metre facility, and it's equipped with a larger brewing system, and it still has John's old home brewing system as well for small pilot batches. They've got their tap room, their main tap room in District 1 in Ho Chi Minh City. It has 20 taps and it has some really nice food as well. And over the last few years they've been doing collaborations with a lot of different breweries from across Asia and further afield, and they've been building up their Asian distribution, of course. These days they've also got a bar down in Singapore and also one in Da Nang in Vietnam as well. It would be cool to go and check it out. I've heard very good things about Da Nang, but apparently the name of the brewery is taken from Joseph Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness, which was written back in 1899, and this was apparently John's favourite book when he was growing up, and many of the beer names have come from things in this book as well, from what I understand. But like I said, over the last few years they've been continuing to develop new recipes, build up their distribution and sales and things like this, and they've built up a very good reputation and won a lot of awards. But as of August 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 600 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and I think it's probably fair to say that they're quite a well-rounded brewery. From what I saw at their bar in Singapore, they've got a whole host of different styles, so definitely worth checking out some of this brewery's beer if you get the chance. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Heart of Darkness Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So there wasn't too much detail available on this one. Just what we have here on the label and things, but yeah, you can see the label of this one is quite similar to what we've seen from the brewery before. Really nicely presented. You can see they've got the stamp on the bottle there as well. Let me just put it in front of my face so that it zooms in. I don't know if it's going to do it though. I think the colour isn't really agreeing with that. Maybe you can see it there. There you go. Heart of Darkness Brewery. That's a little bit better, but yeah, nice kind of silver top on this one. 330 milliliter bottle, incidentally. Tells you a little bit about the beer on the side here and also round here as well. But yeah, on this side it says the Ghost Barrel Aged Stout, 12% ABV, 80 IBUs, 4 hops, 3 malts, 2 sugars, aged in Teeling whiskey oak barrels. It goes without saying that this is a very complex beer. Rich and full-bodied, barrel conditioning adds another layer of complexity with notes of vanilla and a hint of Teeling Irish whiskey from the oak. A beer to sip and enjoy. Definitely that. And it says on the side here, brewed at Heart of Darkness Brewery, aged in Teeling whiskey barrels, a collaboration series. Heart of Darkness Brewery and Teeling whiskey join hands in the creation of a series of barrel-aged craft beers. Bold, distinct hop flavours and Irish whiskey oak barrels make for a very interesting, complex profile. And there you can see the Teeling whiskey symbol on the side there. I don't know if I've actually ever tried Teeling whiskey. I haven't tried whiskey from too many different countries, to be honest, because, you know, being Scottish, you don't need to, quite honestly. But yeah, I do like the stuff that I've had from Sweden and Taiwan and Japan and stuff like that. But yeah, Irish whiskey I haven't had too much of. So yeah, 12% Imperial Stout, this one, the Ghost aged in Irish Teeling whiskey barrels. Let's get this guy out into the glass and see how we go. And again, a big thank you to Deb for the recommendation for this one. So let's do it. Let's see how we go. A little bit of smoke on the opening there, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. So there we are. Just sugar the last little bit up in case there's any sediment. But there we are. No real sediment visible on this one. That's quite interesting. But yeah, that's that. So let's just put this down and see how we go. So before the head disappears on this one, you can see that it's poured with just over a half finger of a frothy, I would say, medium. Medium tan head there. So you can see some medium-sized bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there, and it gets a wee bit foamier the further up the head that you go. But you can see the colour of this one is pretty much exactly what you would expect. A lovely dark ebony rosewood colour. So yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But yeah, it's a bit difficult to do that when it comes to black beers like Imperial Porters and Imperial Stouts. You can see the head on this one is just fading away to be a sort of thinner, more foamy layer, and you've got the nice ring around the edge of the glass there. But not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. If I shine the light through it, it does actually have a degree of clarity to it, this one, so that tells me that the malt base is mostly barley malt rather than having a bit of wheat or a bit of oat in there, as a number of Imperial Stouts these days can do. But yeah, all in all, it looks pretty much as you would expect of the style. So yeah, in terms of the Imperial Stout style, there's a few ways you can play with these. So you can do things like a double mash, which is going to give you a big sort of sticky, chewy mouthfeel. You can do a longer wort boil, which is going to give you more leathery, brown, sugary characters and a wee bit more complexity. You can add adjuncts into the beer, of course, and then you can do barrel aging, where you're going to sacrifice a wee bit of the mouthfeel for more kind of infused flavours and things. So it's always interesting to try different Imperial Stouts and see what you get from them. But this one, I think, is should be quite interesting. I was impressed with the last one that I had from these guys. But yeah, we've said everything we need about the appearance and about the technicalities of the style. I think it's about time to have a little look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. I'm very curious. Yeah, I have to say that does smell pretty damn good actually. It's got a really nice balance to it as well. You do get the whiskey in there and the barrel, but it's not overpowering the whole beer, which sometimes can happen with these barrel aged Imperial Stouts. But this one is really nice. You can kind of tell it's going to be an old school sort of RIS base beer, this one. And you know, I've said this on the channel many a time recently, I'm a bit bored of the Imperial pastry stouts are not my cup of tea, to be quite honest. I don't like the kind of marzipan-y granola thing that a lot of them have. I miss the old school RIS beers and the Imperial milk stouts and stuff like this. So coming back to a beer like this, if I can call it coming back, I think is preferable, to be honest with you. But yeah, this beer's got everything you'd want from the style. You've got the big malty profile, just a little bit of hop, a little bit of fruits, and with the barrel, of course, you're getting that added complexity. So let's just break the aroma of this beer down a little bit and describe it for you more in depth. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, it's absolutely lovely. I mean, you can smell that lovely, smooth, but slightly drier European oak coming out of this one. As I've said before, American oak and European oak for me are just a bit different. The European oak's a little bit kind of drier and more vanilla leaning, whereas the American oak is just that little bit smoother almost. But yeah, you get that lovely European oak coming out of this beer in the base. You can smell the little bit of vanilla, of course, from the oak as well. But the whiskey in this one, it's quite interesting because it's, to me, it comes across as being quite a bright and quite sweet whiskey, almost having a little bit of like caramel wafer or something like that too, and a wee bit of grassiness and floral note. So yeah, it's really interesting how all of that pieces together actually. But yeah, aroma wise, the barrel just finds a really nice balance with all the other things going on in the beer, because as I say, sometimes it can just be a little bit overpowering. But yeah, I'm surprised at how sweet the whiskey is. I don't know if, generally speaking, Irish whiskey is sweeter than Scottish whiskey, but yeah, food for thought anyway. But yeah, on top of the barrel and the spirit, you start to get some of the nice you start to get some of the really nice kind of malty aspects out of the beer. So for me, you do get a little bit of that roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust, but that's kind of minimal, to be honest, compared to some other things. So you've got the roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust, but yeah, on top of that, there's a little bit of rye bread, there's a little bit of wholemeal brown bread, but I'm getting quite a little bit of like a chocolate sponge or a chocolate brownie type note out of this one. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together is pretty nice actually. So yeah, you've got the chocolate, chocolate sort of brownie, chocolate spongy character in there. And yeah, I think the way that that goes together is really nice. It's a bit hard to distinguish whether it's more of a, you've got that more kind of sticky chocolate brownie character to it, and then you've also got the chocolate sponge, which almost has a wee bit of brown sugar to it as well. But the chocolatey notes that you get out of this one, it comes across as maybe a sort of 60-70% cocoa chocolate actually. So yeah, it's really interesting how that pieces together in this one. The chocolatey notes are very, very nice and very, very smooth actually. So yeah, I like the way that that goes together. But on top of that, you start to get the brown sugars. And just the more I smell of this beer, I wonder if it has a little bit of oat in it, because it's very, very smooth. But again, the barrel aging is going to affect the way everything comes out in this one. And it does say it's 80 IBUs, which is Russian Imperial Stout. But yeah, the brown sugary notes in this beer, I get a little bit of toastiness in there. There is a little bit of leatheriness, but not too much. So that makes me think, yeah, potentially this beer hasn't had all that long a wort boil. But yeah, toasty brown sugars underneath, lovely little bit of leathery character in there. You do have a sweeter caramel in this one as well. I'm not sure if I would go as far as saying that you've got a lot of treacle molasses type character in this beer, but all in all, it's actually really quite nicely done. So gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. So on top of that, other than saying that there's a little bit of nutty character to it, I don't know if there's too much else we can say about the aroma of this one. Tobacco obviously would be quite a good descriptor for a lot of the things in the aroma here as well. I did a lot of work with tobacco in the lab when I was studying chemistry. I always loved the smell of it, but obviously it's horrible for you. But yeah, the beer does have a wee bit of that tobacco-y character to it as well, and then your cakiness and things. The yeasty side of the beer, the back of the nose, yeah, it's more kind of brown bready and slightly cakey. It's almost got a little touch of Christmas puddingy character to it, in honesty. But yeah, I think that's everything we can really say about that. The hoppy side of this beer, actually does have a little bit of character to it, I would say, as well. And remember, the Imperial Stout is not the most hop forward style of beer. With this one being barrel aged as well, a lot of the hoppy character will have dropped out of it, of course, but yeah, you still get a nice little bit of hoppy character in this one. So there's a wee bit of earthiness in there, a nice little bit of floral aromaticity, and you're getting some grassiness out of it too. Two of the most popular hops to use with Imperial Stouts would be like Williamette and Galena, because they give you the kind of more berryish red fruity notes, especially in black malt bases. And on that note, with this beer, you do get a little bit of raisin, there's a little bit of plum, you can smell the kind of drier like prunes and dates and things like that in there, but they're a bit minimal. It's the sharper fruits that come out a wee bit more. So yeah, raisin, plum, fig, and like a mix of like juicy blackberry and a bit of black currant as well, a softer black currant underneath. But all in all, the aroma of this beer, it's not anything unusual, but it is just pretty well done, to be honest, and you can't ask for much more than that these days. So yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. but I think it is about time that we try this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Ghost, a 12% Teeling Irish whiskey barrel-aged Imperial Stout from Heart of Darkness Brewery just outside of Ho Chi Minh City down in Vietnam. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and once again a big shout out to Deb. Cheers. Yeah, that's really nice. It is like a proper old school RIS, this one, and you can feel the booziness. It does give you that little bit of chest warmth, which is what you want when you buy something like this. So as they say on the bottle, they're quite right to call this one a sipper. But yeah, it gives you that lovely roasty, toasty, well-fired IRIS character into the aftertaste, but you feel the barrel, the whiskey barrel, just giving you that extra layer of depth to it as well. But yeah, as I say, this is a style that I know this brewery are pretty good at. It's a style that they are very well respected for. Yeah, the way it all goes together is really good. So yeah, I think Deb has done me a solid here by recommending this particular one, but probably we need to have a look at the others as well and see what they're like. But yeah, let's do as we always do. We'll break the flavour of the beer down and describe it for you a bit more in depth, but I will tell you straight away, it is very good. So let's go to the middle third of your palate then. Yeah, the backbone of the beer, you can feel that nice, smooth but slightly dry European oaky character coming out of this one there. So that sits and forms the base of your beer. As you move further forward on that, you've got a little touch, there is a little touch of vanilla character coming out of this one. But yeah, above that, it's all about the spirit, the Teeling whiskey. And I will say that in the flavour, it's quite a bit less sweet than I thought it was going to be honest. Yeah, the whiskey's definitely a little bit more it's definitely got a little bit more of a kind of floral aromatic-y type quality to it. But yeah, into the aftertaste, in fairness, it does mellow out and you're getting wee bits of like, it's got a bit of brown sugary character to it, the spirit layer, but then also a wee bit of like nuttiness and like something else in there. It's almost got a little slightly kind of tea-ish quality to it as well, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, all of these are little subtleties I'm picking up in that layer above the wood, the sort of spirity layer. So yeah, it's quite interesting. You get more and more of that into the aftertaste. But above the wood and the spirit layer, that's when you start to get the actual malty side of this beer. So yeah, above that you've got that roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust. Maybe a little bit of special B or something like that in there, although it's a bit smooth. It could be more carafe actually, but yeah, roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust in there. Above that you have above that you do, above the roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust, you've got more of a kind of, you get a bit of that rye bready character in there, which is kind of sweet like I said, and then you get more of a kind of wholemeal brown bready character in there. And yeah, you've got, above the kind of wholemeal brown bready character, you start to get a bit more of a kind of like sponge cakey note in this one. The thing is, into the aftertaste, you get a little bit of there is a bit of like that more dense chocolate brownie type note in there. And it says NSX, I'm guessing that was when this beer was packaged, so yeah, 3rd of December 2022. You can feel with this beer, like one of the things you'll get with Imperial Stouts, when they sit in the bottle a little bit, you start to get this kind of silky, chocolatey note out of them, and you're starting to get a wee bit of that there, particularly into the aftertaste. So above the bready layers that I was talking about, you get a mix of things going on. So you can feel there's a little bit like a kind of, there's maybe a little slightly more dense kind of chocolate brownie, like sticky chocolate brownie kind of quality. And then you've got a more chocolate spongy character coming out of it as well. But within that, you do have a wee bit more of a kind of silky, there's a little bit more of a kind of silky character to it as well, which is kind of interesting. So yeah. Yeah. So the silky side of this beer, I think, is it's really, the silky side of this beer is really interesting, and it gives you a nice little bit of dryness into the aftertaste too. So yeah, you've got a whole mix of like chocolate brownie, chocolate sponge cake, and then a kind of silkier character coming out of this one. But yeah, on top of that, you do actually get the kind of straight up chocolatey layer there, and obviously sweeter flavours come out further back on the palate, more dry and bitter. Sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, so the more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So the chocolatey layer that you have in this beer, on top of that, you've got a bit more of a, you have a little bit more of a kind of 80-90% slightly charred chocolatey character further back on that middle third of your palate, but as you move further forward it kind of mellows out a little bit, and by the time you reach the front of the that middle third of your palate, you have like a maybe 60% cocoa chocolate there, so still a little bit like stronger in its flavour, but yeah, definitely mellowed out a wee bit. One thing I would add is that within the chocolatey layer, you can feel there's a little bit of a nutty kind of character to this one as well. There's maybe just a little bit like, I don't know, pecan or something like that. Not hazelnut, not almond, but yeah, maybe more of a kind of pecan-y type quality. But then yeah, above the chocolatey layer, you start to get the brown sugary notes out of the beer. So let's have a little look at that, and then I think after that, we've covered the middle third of your palate, which is where the majority of the complexity of flavour in this beer lies. So yeah, the brown sugary layer in this one's quite interesting. So you've got this kind of circle in the middle third of your palate there, and so underneath it's got a bit more of a roasty toasty. It has got a little bit of that more roasty toasty brown sugary character to it, and then yeah, you've got a little circle there, more of a kind of leathery brown sugar. So yeah, roasty toasty brown sugar underneath, a more leathery brown sugar. Then in the dead centre of your palate, it's got more of a, there's like a little touch of like treacle molasses in this one, but the brown sugars are not quite as oily and syrupy almost in the flavour in this beer, compared with other Imperial Stouts that I've had. It really is a proper old school RIS, but you have to remember when you barrel age these beers, you sacrifice a bit of the mouthfeel. So this one is definitely not the thickest of Imperial Stouts that you're going to come across, but it certainly has the kind of complexity of flavour that you would expect of the style. But I think after we've talked about the brown sugars there, you know, the toasty layer, the leathery layer, and then the more treacle molasses sort of thing in the middle of your palate, I don't think there's anything else really to say about that. So yeah, let's go to the back third of your palate then. So as I said earlier, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back, and generally speaking the back third of your palate will give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. So yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel the kind of rye bread in the base, the more wholemeal brown bready character above that. Then it's more like a kind of chocolate spongy type note. And then yeah, the base of the back third of your palate, you can feel the drier aspect of the barrel in there. You can feel a little bit of the kind of boozy bite from the Irish whiskey too. But then you've got the rye bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter, taller and more airy, slightly drier. Then the wholemeal brown bready layer above that, which is a little lighter, taller, more airy and a wee bit drier. And then above that you have the yeah, above that, you've got a more kind of like chocolate spongy type character coming out of this one too. So that's quite interesting. So yeah, chocolate spongy layer in on the back third of your palate there. Actually, there's a bit more kind of sweetness to it as well. You get a little touch of like phenolic-y character out of it, almost very slightly Christmas pudding in its flavour. But yeah, above that, you get some of the charred chocolate just creeping over the top there, and potentially some of the more toasty brown sugars. But on the very top of the back third of your palate, it's all about the kind of yeasty side of the beer. So for me, yeah, the yeasty side of the beer. In the dead centre, you get a bit of that kind of Christmas puddingy type character to it, English Christmas pudding. So like a phenolic, kind of like boozy, brownie type density cake in there, but around the edge you get more of like a sweet oily rye bread, and then the very edge of it again is like a kind of more toasty charred bread crusty character. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer is quite interesting. Definitely, yeah, back third of your palate you can feel the flavour is taller, then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that pieces together I think is really nice. That's the malty and yeasty side of the beer covered. So yeah, hoppy side of things, green component then, there's not too much to say on that. There are still elements of that, the hoppy side of things there, but yeah, fair little bit of it seems to have dropped out, and again, Imperial Stouts are not the most hop forward of styles. But yeah, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, you get a little bit of herbal character, and as you push further and further forward toward the front of your palate, the front corners of your palate, you get more and more floral aromaticity there. But yeah, around the front curve of the tongue, you get a little bit of a lighter, more you get a little bit of a lighter, grassy, more zesty type character out of this one, and that does linger into the aftertaste a little bit. So yeah. Mm. So yeah, the way that pieces together in this beer is really, really nice as well. The green component just adds a bit more complexity, of course. But let's have a wee look at the front third of your palate then, just to round off the tasting section of this review. So yeah, border region between front and middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of that bready build up in there again. You can feel the rye bread in the base, the kind of wholemeal brown bread on top, then the more kind of chocolatey, spongy, brownie sort of thing above that. But the base of that front third of your palate, you can feel the nice barrel in there. You get a little bit more of the kind of smoother wood out of it. You can feel the slightly sweeter aspect of the whiskey and the boozy layer. But then yeah, you've got the bread crust, the rye bread, the wholemeal brown bread, and then the kind of chocolatey and brown sugary layers creeping over the top of that. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. And yeah, the way that goes together is really nice in this one too. So yeah, let's have a little look at that fruity side of things then. Yeah. So, fruity side of the beer, for me, I would say it's kind of what I suspected it would be from the aroma, in all honesty. So in that oily bubble, at the back of that oily bubble, you get a little bit of like raisiny character. Underneath that, you've got a wee bit more kind of oily plum. But then yeah, the base of that front third of your palate at the back, in that oily bubble, you can feel there's a little touch of like prune in there, there's a little bit of date, but as you move further forward, definitely more kind of figgy. And yeah, into the front half of the front third of your palate, it's black currant underneath, then a juicier blackberry just sitting on top. But further into the aftertaste, yeah, you get more and more of the sort of brown sugary and aromatic whiskey barrel, tealing whiskey coming out of this one, and a bit of the woody kind of barrel as well. So yeah, all in all, I think this is a really, really nice barrel-aged Imperial Stout. This one, proper old school RIS. This beer is a little bit of a nostalgia hit for me, in all honesty. So yeah, I really like this one, and Deb definitely gave me a solid recommendation here. I can feel the booze going to my head a little bit with this beer as well. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need to about the flavour. Let's just round off the review with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, this beer is maybe kind of bottom end of full bodied, I would say. The carbonation does have a little bit of a prickle to it, but all in all, the beer is actually quite smooth. It has a little bit. It has a bit of a clean mouthfeel to it as well. In all honesty, you can taste the water's obviously been. I'm guessing the water's probably been treated with this one, but it works out really nicely. Yeah, the water's got a kind of smooth type quality to it. We know the IBU in this one's 80. Some of that's coming from the roasty malt, of course. Some of it will be coming from the dryness of the barrel and the bit of the whiskey bite. But then yeah, you've got the hoppy side of this one too. So 80 IBUs makes sense. We've said the beer has a bit of smoothness, a bit of dryness underneath, kind of smoothness in the middle, and a drier sweetness on top when it comes to the malty and yeasty side of things. And then yeah, you've just got that little bit of juicy fruity character coming out of it as well. But all in all, a really nice Imperial Stout, this one, and as good as I remember this style being from the brewery, just a little bit more complex than we've had from them previously. But yeah, gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Ghost, a 12% Teeling Irish Whiskey Barrel Aged Imperial Stout from Heart of Darkness Brewery, just a little bit outside of Ho Chi Minh City in the south of Vietnam. And yeah, really interesting stuff. So definitely a brewery I recommend that you check out. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Heart of Darkness Brewery as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. I might have a look at some of the other 2 beers they released up here as well, because this was pretty damn good. But until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out their social media, give me some Vietnamese brewery and beer recommendations, and I'll catch you guys in another review very, very soon. Ciao just now.